Good morning. I will now call the meeting of the Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control Board meeting to order at 10 o'clock on this September 18th, 2019. We do have a quorum. Mrs. Hampton, are there any introductions?
Yes, Mr. Hilton, it's more like a reintroduction. We wanted to let the board know that Sean Grady, who joined the board in June of 2017, and then went off for about 20 months worth of National Guard training, has returned to the agency. So Sean just wanted to let you say hello to the board.
Good to be back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any public recognitions, Mrs. Hamilton?
Not this morning.
The minutes have been distributed in advance of this meeting. Are there any corrections or updates to the submitted minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Mrs. Hampton, public comment?
I've received no requests this morning.
Any unfinished business?
No, sir.
New business. We did lose one of our board members, our vice chair, resigned, and I have contacted two candidates to be the vice chair of the Louisville Air Pollution Control Board, Steve Sullivan and Abby Gibber. Steve has agreed to serve. Therefore, I nominate him as vice chair. Is there a second to the nomination?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and Steve Sullivan is elected vice chair of the Air Pollution Control Board. Steve's not here yet. Oh, it is here, boy. Also on the agenda, we have a request for disbursement from the Air Quality Trust Fund. Is something you want to?
Yes, thank you. The Air Quality Trust Fund is a source of funding that the board itself has discretion to disperse. It may only be used for air quality research and development projects, special non-recurring air quality projects, or air quality education programs. This is set out in APCD Regulation 1.17. In the past, the board has assisted with a charging station at Healthy House. They've also provided for a solar panel array at our Cannons Lane air monitoring site. This current request, Michelle's going to talk to you more about what that request entails, but I will let you know that the current balance of the Air Quality Trust Fund is $18,175.61 as of June 2019.
The agenda lights look, I do have a few slides. Recognize that this was initially introduced to the board at our last board meeting, and there was a written proposal included in your board package at that time. Go right here real quick. We just wanted to remind folks of what that proposal is, and for anybody that wasn't here to hear Tom Moore talk about it, Tom Moore is hiding behind me. I just wanted to kind of remind folks what we're asking to do with this Air Quality Trust Fund money. So again, as Rachel just read, there are certain purposes for which the Air Quality Trust Fund can be dispersed, and one of those is air quality education programs. And as you all know, we have a number of air quality education programs, and those are typically funded through our operations funding or through specific grant funding, such as the CARE program, or even through our penalty funds, like the Non-Care for Cleaner Air and Growing Warmer Less programs. So we have a number of different funding types for those programs, but they are typically used to introduce that information and our air quality messaging throughout the entire county, or as in the case of the CARE program, throughout the entire non-attainment area. So they're generally campaigns that are targeted broadly across our entire county. So again, these the use of these funds does have to be approved by the board. So that's what we are asking for here today. Specifically, we want to do sort of a different type of campaign. It's not our typical broad-reaching across the county messaging. There is a project going on here in town. In fact, you'll hear much more about that in the director's report because we've invited Dr. Ted Smith from the Environmental Institute here to give you information about the project itself. What we want to do, because this project is underway, and it's the Green Heart Study, it is targeting specific neighborhoods, and I've included a map here on this slide, so you can see it's a very small portion of the city, but their activities are very targeted and just sort of saturating that area with information about their Green Heart Study and the purpose of it. Not going to go too far into that, but I do want to let you know the reason why we think that this study area is kind of primed for our messaging is because this study is specifically looking at the impact of greening and green space on air quality and health in urban neighborhoods. So it's really speaking to our subject matter and kind of raising awareness throughout that area through a number of different activities about air quality. So again, we think that the pump is primed in this area for people to hear and recall our messaging. So it's not just sort of passing through their field of awareness as they go on their daily life. They've already got this ongoing conversation in the neighborhood about air quality. So when they see our messaging, it's that much more likely to take root and perhaps prompt some behavior change and also some awareness of health impacts and how they can protect their health through being aware of air quality. So the types of activities that the Green Heart Study has already taken on is a presence at community events, holding events of their own. They go door-to-door canvassing, they're recruiting participants for this health study, as well as people to plant trees in their yards. So that's a big part of that. It's a face-to-face interaction with residents in this area. And tree plantings are about to take place in a very widespread way. So again, people will then see this visual difference happening in their neighborhood. And many more activities are being planned. So again, it's this ongoing community conversation around the health impacts of air quality. So what we would like to do is leverage our existing programs and the Green Heart Study program area activities, and so that we can use those leads, put it in the kind of advertising jargon that I'm not used to, but we want to use those leads to help us find the best places to introduce and interject our messaging. So that includes our CARE program, both the Idle-Free Louisville and the Healthy Air General Air Quality Messaging, Lawn Care for Cleaner Air, Grow More, Mow Less, our Clearing the Air workshop series, and just our general air pollution control district messaging about our work in Louisville's air quality. So we propose to do that in a number of ways because, again, like I say, normally we do this in a way that hits as many people as possible across our area, but we really kind of want to make sure that our messaging is getting to the people in this study area, these people who are already kind of having awareness building and are poised for taking that next step in air quality awareness. So digital messaging is a way to do that. There's a term called geofencing, and basically it helps us target the delivery of our digital messaging to people who are likely in that area. So whether that be by zip code or by IP address, we work with advertisers and for campaign delivery so that it is most likely that the people in that area will be able to see our messaging. That again, we have Twitter page for APCD, we have CARE and Grow More, Mow Less Facebook pages. They're both very active and would be great places for us to promote our messaging using that geofencing capability. We've done this a little bit in our Lawn Care for Cleaner Air program when we wanted to target areas for greater rebate participation. So we have just a dollop of experience with that, but this opportunity will let us learn a lot more about how effective that can be for future campaigns as well. We also have lots of printed material, and I hope everybody stops and sees our table outside the board meeting, because that's just a great overview of all the different kinds of print materials that we had. And what we'd like to do is put together air quality messaging bags for all those canvassing activities. So when people go to someone's door, they have something to leave behind that person. Remember their conversation, learn a little bit more, and maybe take some next steps. Potentially, we may look into doing some postcard mailings. That's something that, again, we've tried that with our Lawn Care for Cleaner Air program, targeting some commercial lawn care program materials to lawn care companies. But it's not something that we've really done much of because it's less feasible when you're talking about trying to deliver a message across the entire county. Here, we have a very limited geographic area, so that may really be an effective way to get air quality messaging into every household. So we'll look into the cost effectiveness there. Idle-free neighborhoods, we have a few examples of those. It does take a lot of interest and support from a neighborhood association or business association. So a couple examples would be in the Nulu neighborhood. The Nulu Business Association wanted their area to be known as an idle-free area, and we worked with them and we were able to put idle-free signage in that corridor. So this may be an area, because of this conversation that's going on, that wants to be known as a clean air area, and idle-free neighborhoods is a really great way to do that. And then new ideas. We're hoping that this will generate some new strategies for us that we can test out in this targeted area. We also want to increase our community presence there. It's just a really good opportunity for us to find the events and activities that are going on where we can bring our information, bring our staff, and be present to have a dialogue with the community. We want this to be two-way, so we've got a lot of information to pump into the area, but we also want to take that opportunity to hear what a very engaged and aware neighborhood might have to say to ABCD. So that includes things like special delivery of our Clearing the Air workshop series. So we've always had an aim, and we've been able to do this in some instances of after we deliver a workshop, we put it out there and people invite us to come in and say, will you talk about that to my group? And so that's one of the things that we're hoping to do here. Again, leveraging the contacts and the network that the Green Heart Study has already built through their activity in this neighborhood. And also, again, with Idle-Free Schools is just a really phenomenal program. It can have very real, measurable impacts to air quality around schools and those car rider pickup lines. There are schools in the area where we've had contact, but we haven't really been able to plant that seed of building an idle-free school program in all of them. We need a champion there. And again, we think that this is a good way to leverage that awareness of the health impacts of air quality to prompt that kind of relationship with schools. So, what are we requesting? We'd like approval from the board to disperse up to $8,000 of the Air Quality Trust Fund to fund air quality messaging campaign generally over the next 6 months. The written proposal we received said September through February. Obviously, we'll have a little delay in starting that, so maybe October through March or something along that line. But we wanted to convey that this is a limited time. It's very targeted, very specialized project for our air quality campaign. Ongoing activities of our general campaigns will not stop. This is something in addition to the work that we would continue doing every day. So we will report back to the board if this is approved and let you all know what kind of campaign activities we've undertaken and what kind of response we've gotten. And because we're partnering with Environ and their researchers have lots of great experience in program evaluation, they've agreed to help us to do some research into figuring out how effective are we with this type of campaign where we're targeting a neighborhood and kind of building on something that's an ongoing conversation. So with that, I ask if there's any questions from the board and then request action.
Any questions from your board members?
I have a question. Yes. This is a great idea how you guys are doing this. How specifically will these funds be used for your Idle-Free Schools school campaign?
Well,
I know you said you had you needed an
a lot of that is the time in and building on a relationship that may have already been established with the environment. So a lot of this is no cost per se. It's the effort of staff and time. But there are costs associated with that campaign. So certainly the signage that would go up at the schools, the print materials that go out to all the parents, asking them to be idle-free. There's opportunity to
requested a disbursement up to $8,000 from the Higher Quality Trust Fund to fund an Higher Quality Awareness campaign. Is there a motion from the board to approve the disbursement?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the disbursement is approved. Are there any questions from any of the board members regarding this? No. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you. Bring up these lights again, just fair warning.
Mrs. Hampton, new business, I guess committee reports.
The committees have not met this month, but Byron Gary will be reaching out to the committee with responsibility for regs 1 through 3 to schedule an upcoming committee meeting, probably before next month's board meeting.
Staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Milby. Good morning, everyone. Clearly, you see Keith is not here. I'll share that he is in Europe on a 2-week vacation, and we'll try not to hold that against him when he comes back. So it is my privilege this morning to share with you some of the district's work over the last month. We continue to work on implementing a SELA for our business operations. We definitely appreciate the patience of our staff as that system comes online. Additionally, it is part of Metro Government's Metro 311 app and also their new call center. We've recently had some feedback from folks about that app and also Metro Government's responsiveness. For APCD, you can report report issues related to odors, dust, or open burning through Metro 311, their call center. You may use the app. You can call APCD directly. We have a website where you can enter a concern to us. You may also use the Smell My City app. We're seeing a real uptick in the use of the Smell My City app. For those of you who've been out and about, you'll notice that it's been very dry recently, and there may be more odors from the sewer system that are quite prevalent. We do share the information that we receive through Metro 311's app directly with MSD. There is a place for you to check, is it a sewer odor, and it comes to us at MSD right at the same time. We do share through the app developer information from Smell My City with MSD. It may not be quite as contemporaneous with you making a report through that app when you report a sewer odor. So we are having conversations with MSD to connect them directly to the Smell My City app maker so that they can receive those complaints about the sewer system in a more timely way. Anyone here who may find an objectionable sewer odor, I do want to say that you can call MSD at 540-6000. Their customer service staff are there 24/7. Depending on the odor, they may be able to dispatch someone to investigate the odor at that time. The district's ozone formation study, which is a key element of our upcoming ozone planning work, is on track for completion in mid-October. And a presentation will be made to the board later this fall. At this point, depending on the timing of the report, it's more likely that it will be the November board meeting, but it could be the October board meeting, and of course we'll include that information on our agendas as they go out to the public. With respect to our auto GC at our firearms training site, it has been returned from the manufacturer following the upgrades that the district identified as part of its work with the equipment. The issues that we identified related to humidity seem to have been resolved, at least during the summer months. However, further evaluation is going to take place later this fall as the weather transitions from this very hot, dry period into that more typical cooler weather pattern to be sure that the issues that we identified have been fully addressed. A very similar type of system will be installed at Cannings Lane later this fall. Billy DeWitt and his group are making preparations for that equipment's installation as we speak. Oh, Michelle's stepping out of the room. Well, I'm really proud of this one, and she'll just have to watch the tape. Michelle King, the the district's Director of Program Planning, and Torrin Collins, our Environmental Coordinator, attended the Association of Air Pollution Controls Agencies, or APCA's, recent fall conference in Raleigh, North Carolina. And APCA provides technical and implementation support to state and local air pollution control agencies across the nation. And that includes identifying and recognizing best practices for groundbreaking technology, innovative practices, or exemplary operations in the field of air pollution control. 3 programs from this national program were recognized at the conference for their leadership, including the district's Clearing the Air workshop series. Torrin and Michelle's leadership on engaging the community has not gone unnoticed. In fact, leadership at APCA reached out to me in the fall 2018 meeting based on the 2018 series work that they had already completed to ask that we please submit this as a best practice for competition. Congrats again to Torrin and Michelle for setting the bar high. The feedback that we've heard back from our peers across the nation were, it's so simple, it's not that costly. Why aren't we all doing this? So thank you again. Keith, Byron, Gary, and I, along with our counterparts from the state of Kentucky, Sean Altieri, Melissa Duff, and Bruce Scott, attended GLI's Air Committee meeting last Wednesday to answer questions about reformulated gas, or RFG, which is an ozone-reducing strategy currently in our state implementation plan, and our upcoming ozone planning work to meet the 2015 National Ambient Air Quality Standard. It was a very informative meeting. It's an issue where RFG is something that we saw a tremendous amount of air quality benefit from, and because of changes in the formulation of gasoline over time, and also the improvement in vehicles, we see a little bit less of an improvement in ozone precursor reductions in nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds, but it's still a control strategy, and the Clean Air Act has specific standards for us to evaluate the efficacy of that control standard and looking at whether or not it remains an effective control strategy. That work will be part of our upcoming ozone planning work, so stay tuned and there'll be more coming on that.
I have a question. Are we still doing the vapor recovery inspections at the gas stations?
We are not. Well, I'll let Steve answer that.
So we required companies to decommission the stage 2 controls because the onboard vapor recovery has replaced that as the strategy to reduce emissions from the pump. We still have a technician that goes around and inspects gas stations for what's called stage 1 drops from the truck to the tanks themselves, and just to evaluate the equipment's functioning properly. So we're still doing inspections, it's just a slightly different equipment control strategy.
Dr. Evan Thoma with EPA's Office of Research and Development and the lead researcher on EPA's Rubbertown Rare Project was invited to speak at last Thursday's Rubbertown Advisory Committee, RCAC, Rubbertown Committee Advisory Council meeting. And a copy of Dr. Thoma's presentation has been included in your packet. It's also been posted to APCD's website. This is the 6th meeting with the community that EPA has held on this project. Notably, Dr. Thoma also met with Arnita Gadsden with the West Jefferson County Community Task Force on Wednesday before his meeting with RCAC to discuss his findings, which include a comparison of the RARE project's 1 year's worth of passive sampling data to data from the original West Louisville air toxics study that spanned a period of 2000 to 2005. The WLATS study was a partnership between the University of Louisville, US EPA, APCD, and of course West Jefferson. Really appreciate Arnita coming in early to look at the findings from the study and to also hear more about the work that EPA continues to do in our community. We really appreciate EPA's work in the area. It's been a great opportunity for our staff to support that project and to be involved, and we also especially appreciate the community's interest in the project. I know Carl may be looking for it. I'm going to go ahead and point everyone to page 11. And when you go back and chemical compounds, toluene, ethylbenzene, 1,3-butadiene, and the amounts, concentrations that were found during the WLATS to the current levels.
We don't have.
We don't have those left.
You might have to explain it.
Yeah, we don't have.
Pages are
Blank
blank.
application.
All right,
Okay, we'll fix that for you.
I will send you a copy directly so that you do have it. It's a tremendous improvement in air quality, and, you know, for the district, this is some place where you see the benefit of the strategic toxic air reduction program in action. And so those are real reductions, and it's credit to the district and the people who work here for the hard work of implementing the STAR program. One of the things that also came out of Michelle and Torrin's conference visit in Raleigh, Michelle presented a panel with US EPA about APCB's work to look at a multi-pollutant strategy for our bed map work. And out of that conversation, we actually got a call from a state program who saw Michelle's presentation, and they wanted to ask how and why we had been able to reduce air toxic emissions so dramatically here in Louisville. And we followed up with a great conversation. They're looking at some information we provided to them. We've also directed them to some folks that we worked with at the Oregon Division for Environmental Quality, who also were evaluating an air toxics program. It's nice to see that work actually be recognized, and also to see it be recognized at the air monitor. On Monday, the district, along with other Metro partners, presented the 8th Clearing the Air workshop series on land use planning and air quality. You know, the district plays a certain role in improving air quality, but air quality can and is improved through a variety of different means. Regulatory action is just one of those. Thoughtful land use planning is another one of those ways that air quality can and is improved. Our colleagues from Advanced Planning and Design, along with the district's own Torrin Collins and Bradley Coombs, did an outstanding job. And we were all very pleased that Steve Sullivan was able to attend that meeting as well. Last night, Torrin Collins, Dee Lynch, and I attended a town hall in Metro Council District 3. We had a great time sharing information about CARE and the district's work. These meetings, as well as ones like the West Jefferson County Community Task Force meeting that Michelle attended last night, are important opportunities for the district. We always appreciate being invited to participate, and I just have to say, both of those meetings seem to have outstanding meals that follow. So if you're invited, attend. And finally, I'll finish with something to look forward to. Drive Electric, which is being hosted by Evolve Kentucky, is celebrating Revolution on September 21st, 2019 from 5:30 p.m. to 9:30. And it looks like it will be a great time. There will be tons of different types of electric vehicles there, including our own electric vehicle from APCD. There are several folks here in the agency who have electric vehicles themselves for their personal vehicles. There'll be a food truck and music, and if you're interested, there's a flyer in your packet. Torrin, have I missed anything?
We will be having our table in there for ABCD, and then also the lawn care for cleaner air program is going to be raffling off an electric lawnmower. So if you have an opportunity to come out, you can get a ticket and hopefully win a lawnmower. So we'll be here. Have lots of information. It's going to be at Sullivan University, so it's going to be in the school pharmacy parking lot, which is across the street from the school.
There's information at our information table if you want to check that out on your way out.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board members? Thank you very much.
With that, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Ted Smith with the Enviro to present on the Green Heart Project.
Well, good morning, and thank you for your vote. I feel like I'm in a time machine here, so now I'm going to tell you why she's so happy about the wonderful vote. How about that? No, with sincere gratitude. I think we're all going to be proud as a community for this kind of partnership. So we're going to use my favorite form of pedagogy and watch television for a few minutes, because that's how we all like to learn. It's a short video that, probably does a worse job than Michelle did describing the project, but I think if we put some energy into it, I think it'll make it a little more understandable in one soundbite kind of way. So let's just give it a minute for a little video. Laptop. Put it up there. It worked before the board did. I saw it. It really did.
There actually was playing.
It really was.
Up in that time machine before the
Exactly. And we can skip it. It's not gonna play. But then I'll need the PowerPoint. There we go. Now we can rewind it. We're good.
In Louisville, we're facing a new epidemic. Our city is losing 54,000 trees each year. Even worse, the American Lung Association has given us an F for air quality every year since 2012. So at the University of Louisville, we've decided it's time to make some positive changes. And the Green Heart Project is our opportunity to establish roots as a healthier, greener city. Green Heart Louisville is a unique project. It's the first study to rigorously and scientifically assess the impact of green spaces on air quality and health in urban communities. By planting thousands of trees, shrubs, and grasses, we're hoping to discover whether an increase in neighborhood greenness decreases the level of air pollution in the area, reduces the risk for heart disease and diabetes, and promotes physical activity and social cohesion within the neighborhoods. To study how neighborhood greenness affects the health of residents, we're inviting adults from several South Louisville communities to join the HEAL study. We're measuring volunteers' health before and after planting new vegetation in the area to see how an increase in greenness affects lifestyle choices, social cohesion, and disease risk. We are also measuring the levels of air pollution in the area before and after planting to see whether trees and shrubs decrease the levels of air pollution and if this promoted outdoor activity and better health. Through the Green Heart Project, we hope to positively impact South Louisville and to develop a validated green print for designing a healthy city, one that can be replicated in other cities across the world in the future. To learn more about Green Heart or to get involved here in Louisville, visit greenheartlouisville.com. We're rooting for success.
All right, so we're switching over to PowerPoint. Just to give you some deeper context for where the project came from, some of you will remember, actually, when I worked for the city, we did a very large-scale asthma surveillance project in the community called Air Louisville. And what Air Louisville revealed, much to the surprise of some in the medical community, was that there were specific places in Jefferson County that were much more likely to be associated with asthma exacerbations, independent of where people lived. And there's been a lot of focus, obviously, on indoor allergens, and that's all good and fine. But what this study demonstrated for the first time in the country was this place-based irritation of the disease. And it's far from definitive work, but it was directional for us. And so when we took a look at what was likely happening in those places, the times of year and the locations, the only thing that came up as statistically significantly associated with the events was air quality, time of year, and temperature. And those of you that know anything about air quality know that time of year and temperature are closely related with the formation of many of the pollutants that we are concerned about, right? So all roads were pointing to ambient air pollution in those places. Many of those places were near busy roadways, but not all of them. And if we fast forward that really put some pressure on, are there things we can do in our community at the hyper-local level to reduce the burden of disease? And at that time, obviously, we were looking at asthma, but we then got connected to Rudy Botnigar and his team in cardiology in the School of Medicine, and they have 20 years of air toxic exposure and cardiovascular disease. And so we switched diseases, but kept the focus on ambient air pollution. And so the challenge for the community and the challenge for the world is, beyond the good work of the Environmental Protection Agency and ambient air standards and all of that important work on the federal level, is there anything we can do locally? Now, of course, we have the STAR program, and we know the answer is yes. There are things we can do locally. What can we do about broad geographies? And so this isn't a matter of what can we do about just industrial emissions, right? It's, I like to say air is soup, right? It's a soup full of all kinds of things. And in this particular part of South Louisville, the soup is particularly full of traffic-related air pollution. So the Waterson runs right through the middle of the study area. You've got Taylor Boulevard, you've got Southern Parkway. These are roadways that back up. Congestion at the interchange is a regular phenomenon. And so the idea that we might be able to have some kind of intervention and improve air quality in a place, using the science that's out there on planting trees and bushes and the role that vegetation can play to remediate air pollution, which there's an established literature behind. Nobody's really ever done this work at this scale. So this is 4 neighborhoods, 130,000 people live in these neighborhoods in South Louisville. Think of between the airport and Churchill Downs, and a little bit over west until you get to Dixie. And that's an area of town that we probably haven't studied very intensively on the air pollution side. It's far from our reference monitors, or I remember your roadside monitor down there somewhere. And so we adopted these 4 neighborhoods, and if you want to give me the controller, I'll do it, and came up with this idea. I'm not going to regurgitate too much of it just so happens every time anybody studies closeness, proximity to greenness, at the country level, at the city level, at the census block level, we always find improvements in health outcomes, always. There's maybe 3 studies that are contrary, and they don't use NDVI, which is satellite vision of greenness. So it's a very robust correlation that's out there, but correlation isn't causation. So we just know something's good generally when people are living near green stuff, but there could be a lot of confounding variables. And so let me just give you a sense of these associations. As the emerald ash borer has been chewing trees up, going from sort of Canada into the upper part of the northern United States, we've seen an increase in cardiovascular mortality that perfectly lays over the loss of the tree canopy in all of those communities that the ash borer has gone through. So as we lose trees, more people die of cardiovascular disease. It's a very elegant study, it's got a lot of power, and it's compelling, but not compelling enough that local communities would say, well, I can connect the dots between disease and this greenery. And so we went to we had to collect preliminary data because you can't ask for money unless you sort of look like you know what you're doing. So we found an elementary school near a busy roadway. It's St. Margaret Mary, right across from Oxford Mall. 8 lanes of traffic. I'm sure we've all seen it during the holidays. It's a lot of cars. And we noticed that they had essentially an open front yard, and a lot of the emissions from the roadway roll up into the school. And so we did a test planting. This isn't exactly it, but the schematic of half the yard, and we did air monitoring before and after the planting of the whole space, and then continuous air monitoring in front of, behind, and at the school of air pollution. And then we tested the blood and urine of willing, volunteer children, faculty, staff, and the priest. And what we found in that preliminary study is that if you build a vegetative buffer, it will reduce the presence of smaller particles that can be measured all the way to metabolites in urine in the children. And so we were able to demonstrate a statistical reduction in the amount of air pollution inhaled by kids in the school. Small study, don't write home about it. It was good for NIH. So we went to the National Institutes of Environmental Health Sciences and said, look, nobody's ever demonstrated that green stuff causes a reduction in heart disease. There's association, but nobody's demonstrated causation. You see, the only way to do this is if we do a controlled trial where we're not going to be moving people around, so we're going to be moving the greenness around. And if we find a willing community partnership, we could establish an intervention and control area, and we could plant a whole bunch of trees and bushes and look at health before, look at health after, look at air pollution before, during, and after, and we might be able to begin to establish causation, that there's something in greenness that causes the health effect. There could be other confounders like wealth, physical activity, and there's lots of things that could be going on that aren't in air pollution specifically, but we're testing this. The Nature Conservancy is our partner. NIH doesn't want to pay for trees and bushes, so all of the other clinical trials at clinicaltrials.gov are drug and device trials, and those companies pay for their own drugs and devices. So the NIH said, you got to pay for your own drug. Your drug's $10 million worth of trees and bushes. So we had to find a partner who wanted to buy the drug. That was the Nature Conservancy, and it's been a tremendous partnership. So think of it as a $15 million 5-year controlled trial to answer the question, does planting a lot of vegetation reduce air pollution levels in the community, measured in the air and in the metabolites in the blood and urine of willing participants. Just to remind you, this is the same map that Michelle showed you. This is what we call the whole study area, and the program that we're partnering on here is to continue to increase awareness about air pollution, especially air pollution generated from vehicles, in the whole area. And so, lest you think we're bad scientists, we're not going to just the intervention area where we're planting and we're saying, oh, air pollution's bad, stop idling your car, so that then we say we reduce the air pollution. We're going to the control group and the intervention group, taking one for the whole community, right? So, we want to reduce air pollution. We want people to think about air pollution and health. And so what we're talking about is a program that will span both the control and the intervention area, door-to-door knocking, handing out literature, reminding people there are things that they can do to contribute to improving air quality in Louisville. And we think that is highly synergistic with the overall mission of the project. So it's it's about synergies. We've also sat down with LG&E and we said, could you please stop cutting down trees if you don't need to? And that's been a robust kind of good conversation. We introduced them to the technology we use to measure where the trees are. That was brand new to them, so there's a partnership there to learn how to understand the greenery of our community, and so it's a win-win. Just to give you a sense on timeline, so we have just completed enrollment of all of the clinical participants, so we've recruited over 800 willing, wonderful citizens from South Louisville. Half of those folks are in the control group, and half of those folks are in the intervention group, and the half in the intervention group will be getting all of this vegetation in the next 18 months. We will start planting in October, and we will be continuously planting in the intervention neighborhoods for the next 18 months, maybe 24 months. And then we start bringing folks back for post-testing. So we'll be all done by 2022. But the fun part to watch starts in October. And we'll just hope for good, safe, aggressive planting. Great community partnerships, you heard a little bit about that. This isn't something the university is doing to the community. This is something we've been very thoughtful, I hope, and careful about the conversations. This is something you want to have. It's strictly voluntary to have this stuff in your private properties. We've worked in community listening sessions about the general nature of the kinds of things that we're planting. So we're trying to do this in the most respectful and collaborative way. Just to give you a sense on the air pollution, so we're partnered with Dr. Jay Turner at Washington University in St. Louis. Jay is an authority on roadside air pollution. He's worked for the Federal Highway Administration for many years. And his team is in with both an array of static monitors on LG&E poles. So we have 60 air monitors out in the neighborhood in the control and intervention. And then every quarter, we do mobile monitoring, and so we run an electric vehicle around the whole area, and it's monitoring for VOCs and ultrafine particles, things that we can't get off the stationary array. And so we'll be continuing that work the whole time. Obviously, we're hoping that as we plant stuff, we'll see changes in all of these measures. And then a little bit on LG&E, just so you know, like we started with a flyover of the whole area. It's called LiDAR is the technology, and there's another technology called hyperspectral analysis. That essentially just with one sort of Cessna flyover, you end up getting high-resolution images of everything on the ground. Obviously, it's from sky up, so you don't see a lot of the understory or sky down. But you do get to see all the different species of trees. There's all the different colors. And then there's a different view where you can see the health of the trees. Like that's a dead tree or a dying tree. That's a stressed tree. That's a happy tree. So getting a sense of what the greenery is like in the place, and then doing those flyovers on a regular basis throughout the study as we increase the greenery. And with that, I would answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from the board members?
I've got a question. What's the reason for the loss of trees in the Louisville urban forests? 54,000 per year, I heard.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated answer. Some of it's storm damage, a lot of it's development, where, you know, areas are cleared and new things are built. It's a mixture. Generally people see it as those two things, storms and development. And, you know, so the Metro Council is just entertaining an ordinance or is getting through the planning commission with a no net loss kind of a framework or replacement framework. I mean, there are other actions being taken to try to, on the development side, compensate for the loss through development. But of course, we do have the emerald ash borer coming through our community, so all the ash trees that aren't treated will be dead in the next 10 years. This is what's happened to all the places north of us. And, you know, that's not only a sad thing, but it's also a dangerous thing. Many of these trees are very, very mature and large. And, you know, for some people, it's a hardship to, you know, have to deal with something that hit their house or hit a car or whatever it might be. So it's tricky. We're not just the tree people, just so you know. So it's vegetation. And, you know, there's lots of things that a good evergreen bush can do. And we have appreciation for that, too. So it's going to be a mixture.
Would you take several questions? Yes.
The study's going through 2022. What do you see the time frame as the final paper and analysis after 2022? And also, do you plan to have intermittent updates on the study presented to stakeholders or others?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we honestly won't be in a position to know how it's working until 2022. And we, you know, the sort of scientific machinery is take the abstract to a conference. I mean, at the time we're taking an abstract, we're not the final published study. We will absolutely be with the community going through that. Air pollution, we might be able to get to a little sooner, but I defer to Dr. Turner on that. He's pretty, I think he's a good engineer, and he's, you know, he just wants to make sure he's quality checked everything. And a big shout out to APCD for the role they played in all those monitors we've deployed. Billy and team have been gracious enough to let us calibrate them at Canaan's Lane, and that's a tremendous gift, right? So we believe that the sensing that we're doing is the best that can be done, you know, because of that partnership with APCD. So the air pollution stuff I hope a little sooner, the health stuff 2022 at the soonest.
Yes.
Maybe I missed it, but how many trees and shrubs?
So
study area, and are they going to be like saplings, or are they going to be more substantial?
So the working number is 10,000 trees and shrubs. Because we have to hustle through and you know, figure out what the effect is, we can't wait to plant saplings and wait for them to be mature. So we are bringing in, wherever the space allows, the largest possible tree. And so these can be 30 to 50 foot trees.
Oh, wow.
And then they're fragile, so they need to be watered and given supplements and whatever. So you know, this is an ambitious project. As we go around the country and around the world talking about it, it seems, you know, a little bit over the top. But again, how long do you want to wait for evidence? It's hard to manage a cohort, right? As people leave the neighborhood, as people change phone numbers, as people, as we lose people, we lose the ability to answer these questions. So there's a lot of pressure to get the effect studied in a tight window. Now, if the results are promising, we're very sure the NIH will likely adopt Louisville as a study city, which, if you know the Framingham project, which was the beginning of everything we learned about heart disease, the Jackson Heart Study in Jackson, Mississippi, these are areas that get funded for decades to continue to probe on exactly what's going on. So that's the big dream that we have, is we get some promising results out of the Green Heart Project. NIH, EPA, lots of other folks say, you know what, these Louisville people, they're the kind of nuts that we like. They're interested and curious, and we're getting a lot of benefit out of community participation.
Okay, we take one more question. Any other questions from the general public?
Just for the St. Margaret Mary study, are we doing indoor air pollutants as well?
No.
And then when we look at that, do we look at air filtration and how much time they spend outside? And because it's kind of a broad, statement, but I don't really know how much.
Yeah, so the metabolites we look for only come from combustion, so they don't come from inside. In St. Margaret Mary, they don't have a gas generator running. So we know with confidence that pollution that they're exposed to is from a combustion source. We don't know how much time they've spent in other places, right? Because they all went home every night. And this is why we did a pre-post design, right? So we have a baseline for everybody, and then we had a post-planting, a small study. 15 people. Again, don't write home about it, but it was really to prove to NIH that we could see air pollution in metabolites.
And then the other question I had that was just kind of like on the counter side of things, rather than planting, this is just an idea, I guess. If you wanted to pick a neighborhood population which was going to be under development, and then the people that live there, and then you have your development of raising of things, and so that would be the counter that you have loss of canopy.
Yeah. There have been a number of sort of natural experiments like that. They always get criticized on kind of which population was it. We have inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. There are a very specific group of people that we think we understand how their vascular system ages in a normal situation, and so we're trying to control as much as possible the people side of it, so that we can tease out this other stuff. But it's really a team sport. It's going to take all these projects. The more they're going around the country, around the world, the better. But thank you so much for your support for the project.
Well, thank you very much for an excellent presentation. Getting back to the agenda, our quality data. Are there any questions regarding our quality data report? Seemed like we had, as far as ozone sequences, we had one in, is that correct, in August? August the 5th. So we've had 2 at Cannons Lane year-to-date.
I'm sorry.
We've had 2 sequences at Cannons Lane year-to-date. Has it been 2?
It's 2 or 3.
Okay.
We have not reached that magic 4th yet, and we hope not to. It's the way the design value works, it's the 4th highest that goes toward the standard, which is 70 parts per billion.
Right.
Right now, our design value, which is a 3-year average of those 1-year maxes, 75. So this year, we're below that 70 standard as of now. Even though in September it's been very hot,
It's been very hot.
there's other factors that play into a big part of it's the decreased duration of daylight and sun angle. We've also had some humid days, which that tends to scavenge the ozone out, as well as wind direction and speed. So all those factors play into it. So we have not, despite the hot weather, had any exceedances in September, and very few for this year so far.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board members on the our quality data? Enforcement status report. Any questions from any board members on that? Access emission report. Any questions from any board members? Well, it looks like we have completed our agenda. This meeting is adjourned until October the 15th. 16th. Thank you for your attendance.